Hello everyone, Bard here, and welcome to some more of Happy Sulli-Days. We all love our Christmas specials, and no matter what, it looks as if none of them are the worst. But not every single one of them is the best. I've already gone over my favorite Christmas specials, but now it's time to look at the ones that are almost good. Sure, there are ones that people rightfully say are the worst, but then there are ones that tend to have good moments and scenarios, yet overall, they're not as good as we thought. They're not terrible or great, they're mostly okay. And even if they're bad, there's still something good to them. Now, some of these specials that I picked, I know that people enjoy them, but for me, I have issues with them, and if you enjoy them, then you're welcome. So, without further ado, let's get to it with a list of my top 10 Christmas guilty pleasures. Number 10. Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. Now, don't get me wrong, I do find this special to be pretty funny. It's got lots of visual gags and the most memorable of moments. But why I put it on here is for some minor issues. It mostly shows what Mr. Bean did during one Christmas, such as conducting a band, playing with the nativity set, watching the carolers, and getting his head stuck in a turkey when trying to find his watch that got stuck in it. And there's a plot which involves his love interest wanting a ring from him. Overall, it's not that bad of a special. The comedy pretty much works and the scenarios for them felt right. But the ending with Bean and his lover feels sort of depressing, despite a funny coda to it, and the original version has been edited down for online viewing, where portions from either the first or second act have been removed, like the turkey weighing scene. So even though the special still works for all its funny moments and whatnot, the minor problems with it hold it back from being great. And as much as I enjoy Mr. Bean and the adventures he has, I can say that this one is close, but not by much. Number 9. John Denver and the Muppets, A Christmas Together. As I stated before, the Muppets are great when it comes to Christmas. They present funny moments and songs that are really fun and very touching. And this one, in my opinion, should be among the others. But not everything about it is all that perfect. There's not much of a narrative to this. It's mainly a series of Christmas musical numbers with a backstage story centered around Miss Piggy getting a number with John Denver. And that's basically it. But something like this would have worked with a Muppet Show episode than an hour-long special, because many of the musical sequences don't connect very well, and a couple of them tend to go on too long. However, the songs themselves are the best part, and most of them appear on the soundtrack as well. They have fun and beautiful melodies that are quite touching and heartwarming. But everything else isn't well structured or fitting for a special, if you count it as one. And as a whole, it's nothing too bad, but it could have been handled a lot more better. Number 8. Olive, the Other Reindeer. This one special is a pretty interesting one. It has a unique animation style, very fun songs, and it being produced by the Simpsons and Futurama creator Matt Groening. Yet story-wise, it doesn't quite work. It's not too bad, but I'd say it could have been done better. Based on the book by J. Alder Seinfeld and Vivian Walsh, it's about a dog named Olive who loves the joys of Christmas. But her owner Steve feels like there isn't going to be a Christmas, which is partly indicated through a radio announcement from Santa, saying that Blitzen has broken his leg, and has to count on all of the other reindeer to pull his sleigh. Yet Olive's pet flea, Fido, claims he hears Olive the Other Reindeer, and convinces her to go to the North Pole to help Santa. And along with a wisecracking con artist penguin named Martini, he and Olive head to the North Pole, as she tries to convince everyone that she's a reindeer, all while a postman tries to stop Olive from getting to the North Pole due to him hating Christmas. Once again, it has a unique animation style, and its songs are very enjoyable, catchy, and oftentimes memorable. But the scenes of Olive convincing she's a reindeer is a bit embarrassing in the way it's done, and Fido the flea, while having a trait of mishearing certain information, becomes quite questionable and unsettling, especially when mishearing that Steve's getting a new dog when in fact he's not. Despite that parts of the story felt painful, the majority of the special is still wonderful to look at and admire. And though it has great animation, songs, and voice work, I'd say this is one of the few instances where the book is better than the adaptation. Number 7. A Miser Brothers Christmas. This is an interesting special that's a spin-off, maybe sequel, to the Rankin Bass original, The Year Without a Santa Claus. But in trying to capture the animation and spirit of the original, it doesn't hold up to it, despite that 2 cast members reprise their roles from the original. The Miser brothers, Heat and Snow, get into trouble when they accidentally cause Santa to crash and break his back during a test flight of his new sleigh, when in reality, it was the North Wind who caused the crash, because, since the North Pole is under his domain, he'll take Santa's place and have everyone remember him as the new Santa. But the Miser brothers are given a second chance by working at the North Pole, which at first doesn't go well, but after Mrs. Claus shows them their past history based on a misunderstanding, the brothers then became good to each other and worked together, while the North Wind tries to break up their relationship. It's nice to see a stop-motion special that pays tribute to Rankin Bass, but the redesigns for the brothers and the design of the North Wind felt off to me, and the voice for Snow Miser is definitely not like the original. And surprisingly, the animation is a little more awkward than the original. But the songs are okay, the other characters are fine, and it's nice to see more natural elements than just the misers. It's a fine attempt at capturing what the original did, but in redesigning some characters and changing voice actors, make it a good, yet unsatisfying product. And for those that like the original beforehand, I'd say you may stick with that than with this. Number 6. The Small One.
Just hear me out on this.
Being directed by Don Bluth and the last thing he did for Disney before doing his own works, this short film, originally released for theaters, has good animation, nice songs, and a story that, based on the ending, is sort of unexpected from the rest of it. But for everything else, I just don't know what to say about him. A boy has a special relationship with a donkey named Small One, but because of his old age and couldn't do any work properly, the boy's father has him go into town to sell Small One. And the rest of the special is pretty much that. As simple as the story is, it's mainly an okay special, with again good animation and fine songs. But while I want to like this, there are certain things that pull me from it. Like some of the dark moments felt a bit much, and not to mention 1 or 2 recycled animations Disney back then loves to exploit. And the design of Small One, though looking like an old donkey, looks very weird to me, even in his close-ups. And yeah, parts of the story, especially the ending, is sort of like Nestor the long-eared Christmas donkey, if you think about it. But with all the minor issues I have with this, it's nothing bad, I just don't think it's as good as others would say. It may be a good candidate for favorite Christmas specials, but the few misses it has doesn't help much. Number 5. Emmet Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Trust me, it'll be all over when you hear what I have to say.
As much as Jim Henson's company does great with putting the Muppets and Christmas together, their non-Muppet Christmas ones tend to not be the best for many. And for me, it's Emmet Otter. While it is nothing grand, it is kind of sweet and somewhat simple, but overall, it didn't leave a strong feeling as the Muppets did, which is a shame, but not by much. A mother and son Otter live in poverty, but manage to be happy with the holidays coming around. But when news of a talent contest comes in with the award being some prize money, the son, Emmet, finds it an opportunity to buy back his mother's piano with the award, while his mother finds it an opportunity to buy Emmet a new guitar. So through a few sacrifices, the two decide to enter the contest, with Emmet and his friends putting together a jug band and the mother having to sing. Okay, it's nothing terrible, but a majority of it is pretty depressing and unfun. The color schemes feel dull, the puppetry is painfully obvious with the strings being shown, Kermit the Frog only appears in the opening and is very pointless, and the River Bottom Gang are just a plot device and nothing else. Even the song they sing clearly explains who they are and nobody cares about what they're singing. But apart from that song, the other songs are mostly okay, and some of the puppetry is well handled. Yet even with the happy ending, the whole special falls flat with not very many enjoyable moments to get into. And though I like what the Henson people have done with Christmas, this is one that, I'm sorry to say, probably should be given a pass. Number 4. A Christmas Carol directed by Richard Williams. Now, I'm not the first to admit that every version of A Christmas Carol is good. There are some that tend to be boring, felt too long, or could have been something more. And this version, directed by Richard Williams and produced by Chuck Jones, is one of them. The story itself is basically like every other adaptation there is, although this time, Alastair Sims, who plays Scrooge in the 1951 adaptation, returns to the role that made him known, and he's likely the best part in this. It kind of sounds whimsical and a bit charming every time he speaks. But somehow there's way too much of him in this. Many of the side characters aren't given much time, some of the best moments are quickly glanced over, and the entire special felt very rushed, especially when the ghosts come in. But even with it being a half-hour special, it could have gone on another half hour if the moments and characters were given more time. Yet as someone who enjoys A Christmas Carol, this one would almost work, but it's not one of the best adaptations around. The special does have fine animation and voice work, but the pacing of it all is uneven. Number 3. A Very Merry Cricket. Speaking of Chuck Jones' Christmas productions, here's one, outside of the Grinch Christmas special, that he directed, as well as wrote and produced. But despite some nice animation and music, the whole special doesn't work as much as the Grinch. But at least it tried. As a sequel to A Cricket in Times Square, Harry Cat and Tucker Mouse reside in the sewers of New York City, as there's lots of bright lights and loud noises during Christmas Eve. Wanting there to be peace and quiet again, Harry and Tucker head to Connecticut to bring their cricket friend Chester back to New York City to calm everything down again. Aside from being a retelling of the first special, which itself was based on a book, this Christmas version of the story has nice colors, fine music, and a pretty nice ending. But as much as I love Chuck Jones' animation and his style, some of it here is pretty weird, and kind of creepy, even with the shaggy alley cat trying to take Tucker. Yes, it's on repeat, and yes, its animation can be unsettling at times, but for the rest, it's mainly fine. It's not all that great, and frankly it shouldn't exist, but in comparison to the Grinch and the first special, it's harmless enough. It's not the best Christmas special that Chuck Jones has to offer, but it's not even the worst. It's just okay. Number 2. Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Yeah, I've already done a review of this one, so if you want more detail, go look it up. But I have to admit, it's so awkward and kind of out there that it's actually somewhat enjoyable. It's not really the best, or not really the worst, it's a middle-of-the-road special. Yet it leans to being worst for overall presentation, but also leans to being good for the enjoyment I got from it. Sure, the songs range from good to bad, and some of the character names and development are odd, but overall, I can't help if I have a soft spot for this. Though many people do have their problems with this, I'd say I have the same issues, but it's so bad its good level keeps me from hating the whole thing. And my number 1 Christmas guilty pleasure is The Story of Santa Claus. It's very unlikely you've heard of this special, but man, once you watch it, you'll see that it's a marvel of how awkwardly handled it is. In fact, it's almost a so bad it's good special. A toy maker, named Nicholas, loves giving kids toys and wishes that every child in the world would have one. But since he gives out toys rather than sell them, he and his wife go out of business, and Nicholas decides to continue giving away his toys for free. But upon sailing to an orphanage on an island, the two get caught in a storm and end up at the North Pole, where the elves gather around to see the two of them. Yet once Nicholas saves an elf boy named Clement, the elf wizard and Clement's father Nostrum grants Nicholas a wish, which is, of course, to give every child in the world a toy. And the rest of the special shows the elves trying to make Nicholas's wish come true, ending with the Christmas Eve flight. Apart from a small portion of the story taken from Santa Claus the movie, this one, unlike the last entry, is even more awkward and out there. It's got bizarre pauses in certain areas, some characters aren't given much development, and aspects of the story and animation don't make much sense and are very questionable. But there's still a fine cast of voice work and kind of decent and memorable songs. Yet the awkwardness and bizarre nature of it all is what makes it not only underrated, but it is so bad it's good quality. It's amazing at how weird it is, and yet somehow in an enjoyable way. And for all that this special has to offer, It is definitely my #1 Christmas guilty pleasure.
And speaking of guilty pleasures, tune in next week for an interesting look into an animation company that did great holiday specials, but also did some meh holiday specials.